Hey, it's Carlo here. This week I want to share with you true wealth. And this training really sits on top of or is an overriding philosophy on the wealth mastery program that we run. And I believe that the concepts that we teach there, they're absolutely fundamental in terms of and foundational in terms of setting yourself up and your financial future up for the next decades to come, and getting your practice positioned in a way that it is most valuable and most useful to your long-term net worth building. But that all that focus is great, but there's an overriding sort of, I guess I should say, overarching theme that I really want to tackle, because this is one of the keys to long-term success, happiness, and true wealth. So let's get into this. So what is wealth? Look, first of all, many people achieve financial freedom, but they're still not happy, right? If the goal is, and we all have these goals, I want to reach X amount of dollars, I want to, get to this particular level. And the concern is, the trap not to fall into is this: I'll be happy when, right? We set our goals on, I want to be a millionaire, I want to have, $10 million to retire, I want to have $20 million to retire, whatever the goal may be. I'll be happy when that happens. And then all your life, you're just pushing to get to that point. And when that point comes, that doesn't necessarily bring fulfillment and happiness with it. And often it doesn't. So the goal is not the thing that brings wealth, right? So we need to dig into this a little bit deeper. Let's get a little bit more scientific about it. Let's start dissecting this into what it actually means to achieve true wealth. Yes, money is important, but there's a lot more to it. So let's tackle this a bit. So people who dream of becoming rich, they don't fantasize about the money itself. They don't fantasize about having stacks of bills everywhere or, piles of gold coins. They want the emotions that they associate with having that money, right? They feel like having that money will bring me freedom and comfort and security, or the joy of sharing that wealth, which is a significant component too. And so those emotions become the thing that they are fantasizing about. That's what people really want. It's not the actual dollar value itself, right? It's what that brings you. So real wealth is more than money. There's an emotional component, there's a psychological component, and there's a spiritual component to it. So let's talk about this. What people really crave, if you break it down, is an extraordinary quality of life. It means different things to different people, but at the end of the day, it's an extraordinary quality of life that people are after. And if you look across even all cultures, and I've read a few different reports on this, is throughout the world, people all want the same thing. It's not money, it's I just want to be able to live on my own terms. I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it, but I don't necessarily need to have insane levels of wealth. I just want to not have to say no to reasonable things, right? And so this means different things to different people. For some, it's, I want to have, a fabulous home, or I want to have, for others, it maybe I just want to have raise a large family and everyone be healthy and happy, sort of thing. Everyone has their own definitions, but the key is, if you break it down, it's about living an amazing life on your terms. That's what people are after. That's what everyone's after. So how do you achieve this? So let's dig into this. How do you achieve living an amazing life on your own terms? And it comes down to two things that you must master. And I give credit to Tony Robbins for this, because this is his terminology, and I really think it's broken down best this way. So I'm going to teach it this way. I'm going to just use his terminology for this. But the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. So these are two skill sets, and they're different skill sets that we must master. So the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. The science of achievement, if we break that down, looks like this. Focus. The first thing is focus in the science of achievement. So what that means is where you put your energy, where you put your thought is where your energy goes. So if you're focusing on something, if you're thinking about something, your energy goes there. And if there's something that we want to achieve, and the more we think about it and focus on it, our energy will go there. This also affects our subconscious mind through the reticular activating center. I've talked about this many times in the past. Lots of people talk about this, right? You've heard this from Maxwell Maltz's work and other people. The reticular activating center is that part of the brain that calls attention to things that we tell it, that the conscious mind tells it are important. Because again, your subconscious mind is picking up all kinds of sensory input, far more than the conscious mind can process, and it will only push up to the conscious mind those things that it feels or it believes are relevant. Now, the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between something that is actually important or something you're just saying, you're thinking is important. So if you're, for example, thinking about, I want to solve this particular problem, and you keep focusing on that problem, what will happen is over time, the reticular activating center will cause those potential solutions that come in through the subconscious mind to be pushed into the conscious mind, and you'll be getting these ideas that just come to you about how to solve that problem, right? It's the same principle as if you're walking through a busy airport and there's all kinds of noise and all kinds of announcements on the PA system, and you're just walking along. Maybe you're just looking at your cell phone as you're walking, and all of a sudden you hear an announcement about the flight you're on, and you perk up right away and you catch that. Like, how did that catch your attention of all those things that were going on, right? That's the reticular activating center. So again, what you focus on is where your energy goes, and what gets called into your conscious mind as a result. So there must be focus to achieve things. Then massive action. So taking massive action is the second part of the science of achievement. Now, you could take massive action and be totally, involved and totally dug in and going 100 miles a minute, but in the wrong direction. And that could be a whole lot of waste of time. So to give you an example, when I was first setting out to try to grow my practice beyond what it was, and we started out to what would become tripling the practice in 3 years, there were many directions I could go. But what I did was I started by modeling. I started by finding who had done what I wanted to do, which businesses, which industries, which people, and I just started modeling what others were doing. I synthesized all of the behavior and strategies that I could, and I modeled those the best I could. Because success doesn't just leave clues. Success leaves, a paved road with signposts and clear direction of where to go. So follow that success path, right? Model those who have already done it. And the third part of the science of achievement is acknowledging grace. And some people call it luck, but I would say, you might call it God or whatever you believe in, but acknowledge the fact that, things happen to you for a reason. And sometimes, you get lucky, but the more you appreciate and the more you're grateful for those lucky or coincidental or, convenient circumstances that come into your life, the more you tend to get. Because again, back to the first point, where you focus your attention is where your energy goes. So acknowledging the things that have gone well in your life that have, just sort of fallen on your lap, that have fallen into place, tends to bring more of those things into your life. So acknowledge that. So that's the science of achievement. Let's talk about the art of fulfillment. So Winston Churchill said, "You make a living by what you get, you make a life by what you give." So the true nature of human beings isn't to be selfish, right? We're driven by our desire to contribute. If we stop feeling that sense of contribution, we never can be truly fulfilled. So, giving is a part of this whole process. We must keep growing, we must give. We must contribute. So let's talk about growing. We must continue to grow and develop ourselves to achieve new things, humans are natural goal setters and goal achievers. We get really bored really fast if there's nothing to do, nothing to, I know you've seen this happen before, and I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this. And as a dentist, you've had this experience probably with your patient base just as I have. Many people who are working and happy and everything was going great, and they retire, and within a year they're like sick, or some of them died, and like all kinds of things are going on. I firmly believe that if you continue to grow, to challenge yourself, to achieve new goals, then you continue to grow and you continue to thrive. I think you're either growing or dying, and there's really kind of no in between there. So if you think about that, we must keep growing, we must keep developing, we must keep pushing. And it doesn't mean that, as you get older and you retire, let's say, or you do something else. I think retirement is not giving up work altogether to sit on the beach. I think it's changing what you're doing to something that fulfills you more, or something that you really want to do. So, I mean, we can get into that philosophy, for hours and hours, but suffice it to say that to be fulfilled, you must keep growing. And then you have to give, because again, humans are naturally unselfish, right? We like to contribute to communities, to give to others, and we have a sense of deep fulfillment in doing that. And I know many of you listening to this have done these things, free dentistry days and just a lot of pro bono work and good things in your community. I mean, I built my practice on that. And it has not only given us great financial reward, but great fulfillment as well, to know that we have contributed in such a way to our community and to others that have benefited from it. So those two things, I think, are part of, keys to fulfillment. So we must understand those things. So with respect to the art of fulfillment, if you think about it, how many people do you know that seem to have it all and then they actually kill themselves? Like, there's a long list of people that you could think of, and it's sort of a morbid topic, but think about it, right? People who are, superstars, that were, top level musicians, top level actors, people that, or had a high position in society, and then they commit suicide, right? So financial gain, fame, fortune, all these things, great, but if you don't have the other side of it, that does not produce true wealth, does not produce fulfillment and happiness. This is why I get into, we did this in the Wealth Mastery program as well, and we always kind of come back to this, but what's your personal reasons why, right? What's your value set? Why do you do what you do? And if you get really clear on that and stay focused on it, then it will keep you grounded, while we're working on all these other goals, like building our financial future, our net worth, our practice, and so on, because there's a lot more to it than just that. So again, there's two states. And this is, again, Tony Robbins' wording. I love these concepts, the way he's explained them, so I'm going to bring them to you this way. A beautiful state and a suffering state. Here's how he defines them. A beautiful state is defined as a high energy state. A suffering state is a low energy state, typically characterized by internal pain, some kind of turmoil. And you're really only in either one of these two states. There's sort of no neutral in this. So, we can't control the events in our lives. We can control what those events mean to us. So, what we feel and experience every day in our lives, consciously choosing and committing to live in a beautiful state, you can enjoy so much more of life, right? You can give more to your family. You can give more to the world at large. You could be, you can achieve more of your potential. And this is something that's echoed by many people, like Joe Dispenza, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn come to mind off the top of my head. And there's a lot of people that talk about this. So constantly choosing and committing to live in a beautiful state, in a high energy state, you can completely change your life. The trouble is the human brain isn't wired to make us feel happy and fulfilled all the time. It's wired for survival, which is a totally different thing, different mindset. Your brain is always looking for what's wrong with the environment, what can hurt us, so we can avoid it. And if you're operating at that level, what chance do you have of enjoying life? If all your, if your brain, if you're running on a sort of subconscious pattern or operating system, and in that paradigm you're just letting the brain go in default mode, it's in survival mode. In survival mode, it's just looking and scanning the environment like a primitive animal, like what can hurt us, what should we watch out for, and don't step outside of your comfort zone, and like you're not going to grow and enjoy your life by being in that position. So an undirected mind is in its default survival mode. It's constantly identifying and magnifying potential threats. The result is a life that's filled with stress and anxiety. Most people live this way, and since it's the default program, they make unconscious decisions based on habits and conditioning. They assume it's just part of life to be stressed, frustrated, sad, and angry. Well, that sucks, right? But most people live that way. If you think you're maybe hopefully not at this point your circle of influence, but people outside of your circle of influence, maybe some of your employees, certainly some of your patients, right? They just assume that it's normal to, experience stress and frustration and sadness and anger, and instead of making a choice, right? It's because you're running a subconscious or an unconscious program that you're living this way, and this can easily be changed. So let's look at the definition. Again, this is Tony Robbins' definition. A beautiful state is when you feel love, joy, gratitude, awe, playfulness, ease, creativity, drive, caring, growth, curiosity, or appreciation. You're in a beautiful state. In this state, you know exactly what to do, and you do the right thing. In this state, your spirit and your heart are alive, and the best of you comes out. Nothing feels like a problem, and everything flows. You feel no frustration or fear. You're in harmony with your true essence. And I would continue on this to say, when you're in this kind of a state, you always know what the right decision is. If you have a problem, you always know what to do. Your heart knows what the first step is to solve it. And nothing can really stop you when you're living in this kind of a state. So let's continue on to a suffering state now. When you're feeling stressed out, worried, frustrated, angry, depressed, irritable, overwhelmed, resentful, or fearful, you're in a suffering state. We've all experienced these and countless other negative emotions, even if we're not always keen to admit it. Now listen to this. Most achievers prefer to think they're stressed rather than fearful, but stress is just the achiever word for fear. If I follow the trail of your stress, it'll take me to your deepest fear. Well, think about that, right? If you as a business owner are stressed, there's something at the root of that that's actually a fear. Very interesting concept, something to think about. So I really like that. Now, here's the key. The mental and emotional state you live in is ultimately the result of where you choose to focus your thoughts, right? Where you focus your thoughts is where your energy goes. When it rains on our parade, we don't get what we want or expect. We're quick to give up our happiness and move into a suffering state, right? Think about how quickly you can just, something will happen in your day and you just give up your happiness and you drop into a suffering state. You get angry, you get frustrated, you get pissed off. And, most people don't think about this, but if you really sit down and you think about your life, your existence, your workday even, I know personally that this was an issue for me. I thought it was normal to be in a sort of stressed kind of state, or, it kind of would drive me to achieve that sort of thing. And when you really look at it, and especially you look at the psychology of it, that's totally wrong. That's the total opposite of where you should be. In that kind of a state, you're not creative. In that kind of a state, you can't solve problems. In that kind of a state, you're just reactive. So we must be very, very conscious of our state. Everyone has their own pattern of suffering behavior that they're addicted to. Which energy-draining emotion is it for you? Sadness, despair, frustration, anger, self-pity, jealousy, worry? If you think about this, most people go into a particular pattern, right? I know for myself, I have a particular place that I go when something happens, when it rains on my parade, I get pissed off, and I go to a particular sort of pattern of behavior, pattern of emotion. And if you know that, you can start working on breaking that. So these are all suffering states that are the result of a mind in default mode looking for problems. This is your primitive survival brain taking over and not being directed. So here's where it really gets crazy. Whatever you think, you feel. Your brain thinks something, and that releases chemicals, which we call emotions, that cause you to feel a certain way, right? Then this in turn causes you to think consistently with how you feel, which releases more of the same chemicals, and now you're in a spiral. Isn't that interesting? So what you think gets expressed in your chemistry, which causes you to think the same way, which causes further chemical response, and you just go in this circle of thinking, feeling, and you can't get out of it very easily. So again, the single most important decision you can make is to commit to living in a beautiful state, whatever you want to call that, whether you want to use this terminology or not, but commit to living in a high energy state. And we talked about this at length at our last workshop. So you're 100% responsible for your state of mind and the results you get as a result of that. No one else is responsible for that. Now, inevitably stuff happens and it will shake you up. It'll mess up your state. If you decide I'm living in a high energy state, I'm living in a beautiful state, and then you get to work and you go about your day and stuff happens. Inevitably it will. What do? Here's what I do. So when you catch yourself frustrated, you catch yourself upset, or you get angry, recognize that, give yourself a 3-minute reset. Here's the 3-minute reset. And I talked about this at our last workshop too, but it's very, very important to understand. First, acknowledge the feeling. Okay, I'm stressed out. I'm pissed off right now. I understand that. I acknowledge it. I'm letting it go. Then switch to gratitude, because you can't be grateful and upset. You can't at the same time, right? You can't be grateful and upset at the same time. So take that feeling, realize, okay, I'm pissed off. Whatever happened, I'm letting it go. Switch to gratitude. Now, gratitude can be done in many, many different ways, okay? You can just simply think about something or more than one thing, maybe 2 or 3 things that you're really grateful for in your life, and that will instantly reset your mindset, okay? I do this on the way home from work. Many of you have said to me in some way or another, or maybe you haven't said it, but I sensed it, that your workday produces stress to the point where you get home and you have young children or you have other obligations and you don't have enough energy left to put into those relationships. So what I suggest, and it's the same thing I do because we're all, running the same kind of life, right? It's life for all of us. So we all have the same things. We have a work presence, we have a home presence, and whatever happened in your day when you get in your vehicle to go home or however you travel home, that's the time to run your gratitude routine. So start thinking about the things you're grateful for. Run through that in your mind. Drop everything that happened for the day and just switch into gratitude, because in a state of gratitude, first of all, you're open, you're receptive, you're not in survival mode. You're open to solutions. You're open to possibility. You're not, again, in that survival mode, looking over your shoulder, flight or fight kind of thing. You're in a very different state, in a different energy level. And when you get home, when you get to wherever you're going, those around you can sense that, and they can sense it immediately, and it affects their energy. So put some time into doing this. If you have a 5-minute drive home, that's all you need. So do this process. And then just think of, so if you're in a work day and it's the middle of a day and this happens, do the 3-minute reset. Just, go to your office or go to the bathroom and shut the door and just close your eyes and go through this process. And I guarantee when you're done, 3 minutes, you'll walk out, you'll be totally back to zero and ready to keep going. If you have a little more time, or you're, if it's something you want to make a routine out of, there's a guided meditation that goes along with what I've been teaching. And again, this is Tony Robbins' 5-minute gratitude meditation. I've looked at a few different people who teach the exact same thing. There are a few others that you could do. There's, again, like I said, the names that come to mind, Joe Dispenza, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn. There's a few others that I'm forgetting the names, but a 5-minute gratitude meditation. If you want to do a guided version, if you're one of those people who just wants to put on the headphones and just listen and follow along, you can either go to this link or just search YouTube for Tony Robbins guided meditation, and you'll like it. I'm telling you, it'll take you 5 minutes, but the key is once you get this, it's so simple. Once you get it into your mind and you commit it to memory, you can do this sitting in the car at a red light. You can just do this even if you're sitting in the kitchen, cooking something. This stuff can just start to become routine in the shower. You can start training your brain for this so that every time you get into an off state, you can put yourself back in the right state. If you do that, again, over and over again, you're putting yourself back in, you're focusing your thoughts on where you want to go, what you want to create, what you want to build in your life, then that's where your energy will go, and that's what will sort of create or present itself in your life. So this is a pretty cool sort of extension, I think, of the Wealth Mastery Program, and I think it's really something that is worth putting into your existence, your practice life, your total life as early as possible. So, if you have, wherever you are in your life at this point, it's never too late to install something like this in your life. I know many of you guys are already on and in tune to this sort of thing, but I think if you're not, or if you thought that maybe this sort of approach was a little phooey and cuckoo, look at the science behind it, because there's a lot of study of human psychology that shows this is exactly how the human brain works. And if you can sort of hack that, this is the fastest way to achieve your greatest goals. And I have to say, quite honestly, tripling a practice in 3 years, while there was a lot of mechanics involved in that, some technique and strategy, there was a lot of, quite honestly, just focus on gratitude and being in the right state of mind to achieve those things as well. So real wealth, real growth, personal, business, or otherwise, gratitude is a big part of that. And altering and maintaining your mindset is fundamental, I think, to personal growth. So I hope you found this interesting, and I'll talk to you soon.